We've already got some schedule leaks on the eve of the 2025 NFL schedule release. The 49ers teasing some new uniform changes. And we do have a guy who self-proclaimed is a master of everything that has to do with uniforms and how you wear your uniform and how you look in your uniform. So we're going to get into that today with Peacock and Crocker on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker here with you at BD Peacock. At Coach Crocky is where you can find Eric Crocker on the Twitterverse. And you can always get your questions in for us for our Q&As. We're doing a little off-season Q&A. We'll get into the chat a little bit on today's show. We already got some questions and some ideas of what we're going to get into today because the 49ers are teasing some stuff. And this is off-season tease mode. And the 49ers do a really good, or the entire NFL does a really good job of having big events in the offseason throughout the entire year of the calendar, and the schedule release is coming on Wednesday evening. We'll have our thoughts on the entire schedule. Already know who's going to be home and away, but there's some schedule leaks as well, a bunch of international games. Doesn't look like 49ers are going to be one of those international teams, though. But I do want to thank everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all the everydayers out there. Welcome to the new listeners. Please subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you are listening to this podcast. For real, pause right now and just hit that subscribe button or the thumbs up. Let us know you stopped by. A notification so you can catch one of our live episodes on YouTube. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel because right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets. And all you got to do is win your first $5 bet. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Croc, let's start with the schedule leaks as we know them now, and then we'll get into the rest of the schedule that is completely released on Wednesday. And according to Softy, who's a Softy Mayer, I believe is his name. One of the he's a radio guy in the Seattle area. He says his sources say that the San Francisco 49ers are going to open the season week 1 at the Seattle Seahawks. What are your thoughts on the 49ers potentially opening the season with the Seattle Seahawks? And there was only one international team that we didn't know yet based on the leaks that were, I call it a leak. It's information that is slowly let out by the NFL. It's not like anything that they're holding back. They're trying to give people a little bit of this, a little bit of that, getting folks pumped for the schedule release. So international games, and I'll bring it up on the screen here for the folks watching on YouTube. There is one week 1 Friday night Sao Paulo, Brazil game, and the home team for that game is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers. And so that is not going to be the San Francisco 49ers in week 1 if they are indeed in Seattle.
Real quick, and that's in Brazil.
That's in Brazil. That's Brazil game. There's a whole bunch of international games. There's a half a dozen of them. And in fact, I believe it's the Minnesota Vikings are back-to-back on the road late September, early October in London and Dublin. Dublin against the Steelers, London against the Cleveland Browns. I'll bring it up on the screen here so folks that are watching on YouTube can check it out.
Brazil is somewhere I wouldn't mind going if I were a single man. I am happily married. Actually, this year's 10-year anniversary. But if I wasn't, Brazil would be at the top of my list of places to go.
There is a ton of 49ers fans in Brazil. Shout out to, I bet there's someone in Brazil. I don't know what time of day it is in Brazil right now. It's 8:30 p.m. as we record this on Tuesday night. There's a ton of 49ers fans in Brazil. And so I bet there's some actually right now in the chat. So let us know if you're hanging out in Brazil, watching us live on YouTube, checking out Locked On 49ers. We appreciate you. So there's really only one team, one team we don't know that they're holding for the schedule release tomorrow. But here are the other games for the international schedule so far in the NFL. And it is a team to be announced at the Los Angeles Chargers Friday, September 8th, week 1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Then you got the Vikings back-to-back Sunday, September 28th, and then October 5th Back-to-back Sundays, the Vikings are in Dublin, then London at the Steelers and at the Cleveland Browns. You got the Denver Broncos who are going to be at the New York Jets on Sunday, October 12. That's another London game. So 3 weeks in a row, there's going to be London games October 5th, Sunday, October 12th, and Sunday, October 19th. The 19th is going to be the Los Angeles Rams at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are kind of trying to build a little culture of a home London advantage there with playing those home London games every year. So we'll see how that turns out for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They get another one at home. That's against the Los Angeles Rams, quote unquote, at home. Then on November 9th in Berlin, it is the Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts. And then the final international game of this season, again, no 49ers international games. It's going to be the Washington Commanders on Sunday, November 18th at the Miami Dolphins. So that is the international schedule for 2025.
A lot of international, and I think it's continuing to get popular. They're going to some of these places. I mean, these are, I guess, really outside of America. Soccer, or as they call it, football, are like that's the number one sport. So trying to kind of make a little way for American football to take, I don't want to say take over, but start to have some importance in some of these places. And when you watch the games and you're seeing it on TV, you see the crowd, because they always pan to the crowd, and you see a lot of different jerseys people are wearing. It seems like it's kind of picking up. And like we can also tell by just, when we look at where people are listening to the audio versions of our podcasts in the different countries, a ton of different countries.
No doubt. I mean, this is an international fan base. We are an international podcast, Croc. It's always mind blowing when I go look at the numbers and see where people are listening to this podcast, both audio and video. When people jump in the chat and they're like, shout out from wherever, it's, middle of the night, but I'm still hanging. Those post game ones are intense. And you get a lot of fans from a lot of places. They're like, man, I had to come on live and hang out with you guys after the game, even though it's 3 a.m. for us over here. And so that's always great to hear. And yeah, I think Sao Paulo, Brazil would have been a really fun one for the 49ers to play in. And that would have been a fun game, I think, to travel to, married or not. I think it would have been a good one in a fun atmosphere for sure. What are your thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks this year? Rivalry renewed, potentially week 1 for the San Francisco 49ers, if that source is indeed correct on that Niners road game in week 1 at Seattle.
Seattle, that's a big one. And when the 49ers just last year, they were just so bad in the division. So you have to do much better. Of course, you got to win your division. I mean, that is the first goal for anyone, even for me in high school. Like the first goal, hey, we got to win league. Like, got to be league champs first and foremost before anything else. NFL, it's no difference. You got to win your division, right? So you look at the 49ers division, you're starting off with Seattle Seahawks. In Seattle, typically a tough place to play. I would expect it to be extremely difficult week 1 when they don't even know what kind of team they're going to have. So now you got the 12s all rocking. You got 49ers kind of going in there, wondering what the 49ers are going to be, wondering what the Seattle Seahawks are going to be. New look Seattle Seahawks with Sam Darnold at quarterback and no DK Metcalf and no – has Tyler Lockett been picked up anywhere? Lockett
is in Tennessee.
Okay, in Tennessee, but there ain't no Lockett in Seattle. So it's like Jackson Smith and Jigma and Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, yes. Cooper Kupp did sign with the Seattle Seahawks. They drafted Gray Zabel in the first round. I think they're going to try to run the ball quite a bit. And maybe that's why the 49ers were gearing up with all these big run-defending defensive linemen in the draft, Croc, to be ready for that. And maybe they're not too scared of Sam Darnold throwing the ball on them a lot this year. So, I would love that. Started off with a big one and probably a good time for the 49ers to face the Seattle Seahawks. New quarterback kind of before they get their footing. I mean, there's been a lot of changes with the San Francisco 49ers too. I think a lot of us, Croc, and we'll get to this next because I already see some questions about this in the chat. And by the way, get some more questions in and let us know what you want to talk about at the end of today's show. I want to talk a little bit more about the uniforms and stuff next too. But like if the Niners start a bunch of rookies, like that could go bad too. It's not just automatic that it's like, oh, nailed all those draft picks. They're all going to be awesome. They're all going to start, and the Niners are going to be amazing with all these new draft picks. There's going to be some growing pains with some of these guys.
And as right now, let's say they're not starting. Like, is that an issue? Because, obviously, like starting a lot of young players, that seems like it to be an issue. But what's the alternative option? So, Kevin Givens, because this other guy's ready. Well, Kevin Givens is not a full-time starter. What about on the back end? Well, it's like, well, it's one of these guys who are really more of a special teams player as opposed to a true safety that's ready to go right now. So, like, your rookie isn't ready. Now you got to go with more of a special teamer, the linebacker position. What you kind of handcuffed to D Winters and maybe Martin and some of these guys playing next to Fred Warner. What is that going to look like? So I do think there are question marks, but you're hoping that you get a lot of the answers week one and guys are ready to go. And we watched San Francisco 49ers in Seattle kind of early last year, playing with some young defensive backs. Green played well against DK Metcalf. You had Malik Mustafa. He played well. So, you had some guys that were making plays that were young and kind of stepping themselves as someone that the 49ers could build around. Maybe that's what this young group of defensive backs or linebackers, rookies will do as well.
Yeah, potentially no Ayuk too. So, the 49ers would probably be a team you'd rather play early in the season than later in the season. The Seattle Seahawks might be in a similar vein, but a good barometer, I think, to start the year against a division opponent in the Seattle Seahawks with Sam Darnold, former 49er, at quarterback. Let's talk uniforms, some leaked uniforms. How y'all feel about cream in the Niners uniforms? Kind of San Francisco Giants style, potentially. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, delivers major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's always something amazing, something fun, something intriguing to get in on the action. Never been a better time as well than right now at FanDuel. And how could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? More on that in a minute, because FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off, live during the game, same game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's a great time. It's the perfect time, in fact, to sign up. Just head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets to play with. So go to FanDuel.com or download the app and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Croc, I'm going to bring up the 49ers.com website and get your thoughts. And there's a few things that I like that I'm seeing here. And really all of it I kind of like. And we talked a little bit off the air, Croc, and you tried to bring up the 1998s, the late 90s uniform changes. And I'm big against those. I hated them when they came out. I still hate them. I don't want to see a retro version of that, according to these, leaks. It doesn't look like that's a direction the 49ers are going. And I know you like them. It depends when you came up. 90s were bad for uniforms.
If you modernize them, right? Like you modernize them, you get some of these guys, I think they would look sweet. Now, they're just not true 49er colors. I feel like the gold was different. The red was clearly different.
Yeah.
They had the red face mask on the helmet. And so I think like a lot of those things were like, not really 49ers. I mean, I think that's some of the issue that a lot of the fans have with those uniforms. But as an alternate, I am not opposed to wearing those uniforms. And I saw someone kind of do a jersey swap with like Trey Lance. This is back when Trey Lance was playing for the Niners. It looked really good. So, I like it. I like it as a change up, but definitely not something I would go to full time.
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we talked about this. I know I talked about a lot with Matt Williamson about, and a little bit on Twitter about my thoughts. I just think that I can't really think of any uniforms that got better like mid 90s to late 90s. It was the worst era of all time for uniforms. And most of those teams have gone away from it and gone back to the retro looks that were clearly better, that they all screwed up in the mid to late 90s. Like those late 80s uniforms, that was where it was at in most of these. Almost every sport and almost every franchise has gone back to what they look like more in the late 80s or earlier. and gone away from what they look like in the late 90s because everyone jumped the shark. Everyone was like trying to add black in everywhere. The 49ers did it too, tried to get darker. It was like, let's go grunge with our uniforms, right? Let's be a little bit darker and mysterious. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't working for me, man. And look, let me know someone was better in the late 90s than they were in the late 80s with their uniforms. And there's almost none.
Well, and Buffalo has newer uniforms. These clearly aren't uniforms that they wore in the 90s. I like these Buffalo uniforms more than I did the 4 Super Bowl lost team.
Current one. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have gotten better because they've gone away from what they did to themselves poorly in the 90s. And it's funny because most of the new good uniforms aren't even new designs. They're just old retro designs that were already better, which is interesting.
49ers as an example.
Yeah, 49ers, perfect example. Speaking of the 49ers, let's go to, I'm going to bring up the 49ers.com website and what they're showing us here with a little teaser of what might be to come with the uniforms. And first of all, the old style logo, SF, the floating logo they're talking about. And they've got it in gold, they've got it in red, and they've got it in white here, white on red and red on cream. So I think they're trying to tell us something with the cream background and not just whites, Croc. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit further because very interesting. They talk about the history of innovation, shows Bill Walsh and Joe Montana drawing plays in the dirt, the famous photograph, and versatile, resilient nature of gold they talk about, and shows the 49ers in saloon font. And then you go down a little more, and it shows the floating SFs again in black, red, and gold logos. In the floating SF is the old style SF logo, like the old logo, but without the circle around it. So that's an interesting one, which apparently first appeared on 49ers helmets in 1962, the old original iconic SF logo.
So kind of like San Francisco Giants,
Yes.
somewhat.
Yeah. You tie the S and the F together. Faithful script they showed here, which is kind of a new school thing for the 49ers with faithful. But here's the interesting part here. They talk about heritage cream again with the red. We saw it earlier with the red SF floating old school logo on cream. Montana red, they're calling it, with it looks like cream as the white writing. Then they've got gold rush gradient with black, which to me, with that gold, tells me that they're going to throw out some gold helmets with the black SF, Croc. That's what I'm feeling the 49ers are putting down. And then one called Primetime Black. So not only is it black, but they're saying we're going to wear this in prime time as well. So one of these primetime games on the schedule that we find out about tomorrow, they're going to be wearing black out there, Croc. So I'm kind of excited about this. This could be some interesting look, and teams now can wear different helmets and have multiple helmets in a season, unlike the past. And so that's going to be something very new this year for the first time.
There are a lot of people that don't like change. I like different sometimes in moderation, right? You don't want a ton of it. Are the 49ers going to wear cream colored uniforms?
I think
Almost
so.
like, I mean, San Francisco Giants,
Yeah.
baseball in general, right? They'll wear like an off-white. And off-white is kind of in right now in kind of the fashion world.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed, just kind of reading this, trying to put it together, I could see the 49ers wearing some off-white uniforms.
Absolutely. Heritage cream with red writing, it looks like, for the tops is what I'm feeling here. And then if they go the other way with the home and away, it's going to be cream writing on red tops. They're calling Montana red. And I mean, you see that gold, that's not gold pants. That is metallic gold. That's a helmet. The Niners are going to break out gold helmets. Like, that is happening, is what I'm getting from this. And it looks like potentially the black helmet logo, and then the primetime black is that a tease at the black uniforms to go with the gold helmets potentially. I don't know, in primetime games. So interesting. I think
I wonder if that's what it is. Are they pairing heritage cream with Montana red and then gold rush gradient gold with primetime black? Like, is that what they're doing?
That's
so
what
like we may have two separate uniforms, and there's going to be the cream and the red, and then the gold and the black.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Croc, I think they can only have, or anybody in the chat, if you know this, if I remember, you can have only one alternate helmet. So they can't have two alternate helmets, right? Unless unless I got this wrong, because I've seen some people talk about the red helmet potentially as well. Or can you have two alternate helmets now? Can helmets be part of just any of the alternate uniforms? But I thought I read something a while back. This was kind of last year when they were talking about that they were going to go to alternate helmets, that there was only going to be one alternate helmet, or is there potentially going to be a red alternate and a gold alternate helmet for the 49ers? Intriguing stuff, Croc.
I will say I am very excited to kind of see what they put together because I like change. I like change.
I'm afraid of change, Croc. Change can be good, but change for the sake of change. And I know some fans don't care. You throw out a new uniform, they're going to snap it up. I've got standards, okay? And so I'm going to see something. And if I like it, it's cool. But I don't like change just for the sake of change. And sometimes, like we were talking about in the late 90s, a lot of people changed for the worse because they were chasing this one trend. And it was all bad, man. It was just bad. And so the expansion franchises were rough too because they only had like purple. That was like the only color that expansion teams could use. And so they're throwing out some weird looking uniforms. And like the Jacksonville Jaguars have never, I think, been able to quite pull that together with the teal and the gold and the black. I know some people kind of like them. I'm not as much of a fan, but what I'm seeing here are some classy color combinations, Croc, that they could potentially pull off and it could look really good. So we'll see what it looks like. Mapping out a new bold path is the tagline here for the San Francisco 49ers new uniforms.
Bold. That seems like they're gonna get a little risky with it. And DJ on Twitter, he tagged both of us and he said, aren't they getting the City Connect ones this year? So we see the San Francisco Giants with the City Connect and they got the purple in there, and it's they're definitely daring to be a little different there.
Let's
see the 49ers just do something that is definitely out of the ordinary. Definitely for one game. You see it in every sport. You see it in baseball for sure. It's a way to, increase jersey sales and do all that. We're seeing it in basketball. They'll wear, they'll pick a couple games to wear some random uniforms. I know the Lakers had like some city nights uniforms and things like that. NFL 49ers, they got to get with the program.
Oh, the City Connect's really bad. The Giants ones, at least, I've seen some that were okay. I also don't get what's the point of having your colors, right? You have your team colors. What's the point of that if you're just going to wear a different color completely? Like you'll see Giants hats or 49ers hats and they're like yellow and brown or whatever. It's like, that's not the team's colors, man. So I don't know, whatever.
Well, so here's one. At the high school I coach at, I changed something up. I was hoping like none of the old timers would get upset by it, but the school is brown and gold. Now the gold is more, they call it athletic gold, where it's more like a yellow gold, right? I think like Green Bay Packers helmet or just it's a yellow gold, that color gold. But for whatever reason, in every program at that school, every sports team has that gold, like the brown and yellow gold, except for football. Football had Vegas gold. I have no idea why. I asked a couple of people, they're like, we don't know. You want to change it? I'm like, yeah, let's change it. Let's do something a little different. But I mean, we went to what the rest of the school has gone, but traditionally that's not what they've done. They had these Vegas gold helmets and they would have like Vegas gold in the uniforms. Made no sense. There's nowhere else at the school. Only football had it. So I changed it up. And sometimes, change is good.
I like it. Coach Crocky, at Coach Crocky, making some changes, speaking of culture, changing the culture, trying to put together a program there at Stag High in Stockton. I'm pumped, man. I can't wait to go see one of your games this year. You playing any games near the Bay Area?
No, not at all.
That's all right. I can travel.
Most of our games are actually local.
I can get over to Stockton. I'm down with Stockton. I know.
Get a sideline pass for you.
Oh.
And a fan. Any fan in the chat, we'll pick somebody and give you guys a sideline pass. Have you guys on the field? Man.
I love it.
We'll get Peacock to run out the tunnel with us.
Yeah, let's go. I'll carry the flag.
There we go.
Flag. All right. Your chat. There's questions about the 49ers defensive line, sticking the landing on this draft class, and more next. All right, Croc, I want to get into the chat a little bit here. Got some good questions about these San Francisco 49ers. Melaniak says, I love the D-line additions. Bosa leads the league in pressures every year, but the sacks died down with no help. I think it's a good point. I think even if, let's say all three 49ers defensive line rookies start and they play a pretty big role and they're on the field a lot early downs and later downs. We actually have a question about that next to get to, but let's say they play a pretty full role. Better run defenders than pass rushers in college so far for these guys. Potential for more in the NFL though. Just pushing the pocket and setting the edge and having the length of Mykel Williams on the opposite side and him being able to corral rushers that Nick Bosa chases his way. And for these guys to be able to push the pocket with power and push quarterbacks Nick Bosa's way, I think that could be helpful. What do you think, Croc? Do you think we see an uptick in Bosa's sack production just by having these young, spry, athletic, high motor, power players on the defensive line around him, even if they're not collecting a ton of their own sacks?
No, I don't. I think you have to get somebody that has like legit pass rush moves. They got to be able to win their one-on-one battles, because if they're not worried about you really getting to the quarterback, they'll solo block those guys and they'll dual block Nick Bosa, and then make it very difficult. And they're going to chip him and they're going to give him a lot of attention. So if you don't have someone else, the best thing to do, 49ers, 2019, bunch of sacks for everybody, right? Well, it's like, well, you can't block any of these guys solo. And if you do, then this guy's going to get a sack or this guy's going to get a sack. And it was kind of a sack party with that squad, with the way that guys were getting to the ball. I mean, even Eric Armstead, he joined the party and had double-digit sacks that season, the most that he's had in his career. So, I think, Nick Bosa, he was terrific as a rookie. D4, when healthy, he was getting to the quarterback, especially early in the season, kind of tapered off a little bit later as he started kind of dealing with little nagging things. You need that kind of collective group of guys that can really get to the pass rusher. And they were all essentially DeForest Buckner, Nick Bosa, D4, and then Armstead was able to benefit off of that. But this squad, like, who else is threatening anyone on opposing lines in the passing game? And that's something that they're going to have to prove before Nick Bosa gets either less attention or, these guys push quarterbacks off of their spot or pushes the quarterback off of the spot for Nick Bosa to be able to benefit.
I mean, it was pretty telling. We talked about when we were breaking down Nick Martin post-draft. Nick Martin's 6 sacks in 2023 was more sacks in a season than any season by any of the defensive linemen that the 49ers drafted. And that was a linebacker. Yeah. So, Saleh might have to dial up some blitz and run some games up front to try to get this pass rush going, because I think the 49ers, even with rookies playing a lot, could be a better run defending group up front. But, who's going to replace even Leonard Floyd's, what was it, 8.5 sacks last year? Right. I probably wouldn't project any of the rookie 49ers defensive linemen. And the only one you would project would be Mykel Williams to get close to 8.5 sacks. That'd be more than he had in any of his seasons in college. I mean, it's more games. So he could definitely get there, but you project him to be an 8 to 10 sack guy already out of the gate his rookie year. I'm not sure.
I don't. Now, if he does, we're talking about rookie of the year potentially, right?
Yeah. If you're elite against the run and you start flirting with double-digit sacks, and look, hey, last year's defensive rookie of the year, Jared Verse, he had one move. It was just a ridiculously good move. It was just all bull rush all day long. And Mykel Williams has that kind of power. And I talked about that after the draft with Mykel Williams. Like, dude, lean into it. Be violent. Go through these dudes and be great at what you're good at. And you have a lot of years in your NFL career to develop more moves and to develop hand usage and hone some of these finer skills. But right now, if your strength is that length and power and you can get into a guy's chest and push him back and bull rush, go to town, man. Be violent. Bigger loss in the offseason. Cornerback Charvarius Ward or running back Jordan Mason? This is an easy one for me.
Yeah, Charvarius Ward.
Charvarius Ward. Running backs don't matter.
Mason was good. I mean, really good, especially at a time. But running back production is just so easily replaceable. And now if you're talking about like an elite, like just a legit elite rusher, and the pressure that they put on opposing defenses play in and play out, like that's different, right? You're talking about CMC, you're gonna miss him. A guy like Saquon Barkley, or even like Derrick Henry, which sneaky had almost 2,000 rushing yards last year. I didn't know that until I saw something. I'm like, wait, he did that last year? Oh, dang, he was like 50 yards shy of 2,000 rushing yards on the year. But having like those type of backs, okay, they really make a huge difference. JP Mason ran the ball very well, but it's tough to have good coverage guys, and Traverse Ward was that when healthy for the Niners. So
yeah, and as good as Jordan Mason was, like that's a replaceable position. And I mean, the Niners, you can get a guy like that on day 3, and the Niners probably got a guy in Jordan James, in my opinion, who's going to be a pretty darn good running back in the 5th round, and could probably, in a similar role, put up similar numbers to Jordan Mason. That's hard to say about a rookie 5th round cornerback, to be like, hey, come in and be Charvarius Ward. That even though Charvarius Ward was not a high draft pick, you're usually not expecting that, but you can definitely expect that from a running back.
Charvarius Ward, undrafted by the Dallas Cowboys, who let him go, and he ended up going to Kansas City.
Do you think Clowney is a name? I'm seeing Clowney here. I'm seeing some questions about who the 49ers might be able to bring in. KP says they need a designated pass rusher and kick Mike Kelly in on passing downs. Maybe Von Miller or something just for those 3rd downs. What do you think about one of these veteran guys, Von Miller, Clowney, one of these guys that might still be on the street that could come in and even play just a minor role and just help those youngsters along just in case they're not ready for camp? I will say, if the 49ers sign anybody, whether it's offensive lineman, we've actually already seen the 49ers have drafted, or keep saying drafted, signed 3 veteran offensive linemen since the draft. Those are all short-term, 1-year deals. I think guys like Clowney, Von Miller, some of these veterans that are out there are going to just chill out and find the best spot for them and see if somebody gets hurt and see if they can get a lot of money, because I think there's probably not a lot of money for those players right now. And the 49ers are not a team that's going to spend a lot of money on a free agent right now. So the free agent the 49ers bring in is going to be a guy that they get on a very cheap, very short deal. Is that going to be one of those names? Possibly, but it'll probably be a lot closer to camp in that case.
And I like the thoughts of Von Miller, especially not having to play, every single snap. He still has some juice, and he's still able to be productive. Especially, again, if you're talking about a situational pass rusher, I think he can still do that even at this age.
Thanks to all the questions. Thanks for everyone hanging out with this live episode. We're going to continue breaking down some of the 49ers draft picks. I think it's the perfect time to get into the 49ers 5th round running back Jordan James on the next episode of Locked On 49ers. Let us know on Twitter at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky, or in the YouTube comments what we should get into next. Love hearing from the listeners out there, and let us know if you're listening from Brazil. You might be sleeping as we're doing this live episode, but if you wake up, listen to this podcast, I want to hear from you, and all the international places where NFL games are happening. Unfortunately, no 49ers games coming to your neck of the world on this 2025 season, but I appreciate you listening to Locked On 49ers. Make sure you sub up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.